قاف.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Here we are finally with a special episode. So, first of all, an introduction. What is this video going to be about? So, basically, as you can see, there's this software here, this program called Space Engine, and it is a universe simulator, some sort of uh, basically, yeah, it's a universe simulator, and it has some real data taken from real space data, and other datas are procedurally generated. So for those who don't know, it means that the data you have some sort of equation in the software, and the equation basically generates planets and systems, and we will see. And if you are still wondering, yes, it is as amazing as it sounds. But uh, from the Muslim perspective, we're going to use this tool to actually doing some amazing dhikr. And so before jumping into the space simulation, I wanted to share with you uh, uh, the parts, the relevant parts that we're going to reflect upon. So these are taken from Surah Al-An'am, the cattle, and it starts from verse 75. So the context here is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that this is the reflection that Ibrahim alayhi salam, Prophet Ibrahim, Prophet Abraham did on nature, on the cosmos. And then this reflection led him to the certainty that there is a God, and that God is beyond anything that he could ever imagine, that is beyond the physical, and that originated everything, basically with the qualities that we know of the one true God. And then we know that God gave him revelation, right? So let's see what it says, and because the question at the end of the day is, what did Ibrahim get? What did he understood? So this is the verse. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وكذلك نري إبراهيم ملكوت السماوات والأرض وليكون من الموقنين. And that's how it is. We showed Ibrahim the kingdom of the heavens and the earth, and so that he may be among those who have yaqeen, among those who are certain. فلما جن عليه الليل رأى كوكبا قال هذا ربي فلما أفل قال لا أحب الآفلين. So when then finally the night covered him, he saw a planet, and he said, this is my master. But when then finally it set, he said, I don't love those who sat. فلما رأى القمر بازغا قال هذا ربي فلما أفل قال لئن لم يهدني ربي لأكونن من القوم الضالين. When finally he saw the moon bright and shining, he said, this is my master. But when then finally it set, he said, if my master doesn't guide me, I will most certainly be among the people who are lost. فلما رأى الشمس بازغة قال هذا ربي هذا أكبر فلما أفلت قال يا قوم إني بريء مما تشركون. When finally he saw the sun shining again, he said, this is my master, this is greater. And when finally it set, he said, O my people, most certainly I am cut off from that which you associate. إني وجهت وجهي للذي فطر السماوات والأرض حنيفا وما أنا من المشركين. Most certainly I turn my face to the one who fatara, who originated the heavens and the earth, Hanifa, with a sincere monotheistic cult, and I am not at all from the mushrikeen, from the polytheists and associators. Now, if you watched some other videos, you will see that we already discussed part of this argumentation, but for those who didn't, I suggest you to look at it, and it was in some of Speaker's Corner reaction videos. And what happens is that Ibrahim notices something. And we are going to first of all look at the same scene that Ibrahim looked at, and then we are going to reflect and try to get, at least inshallah, part of what he understood. So let's go. And here we are. Basically, I don't know where we are. Yeah, that's it. All the galaxies I'm loading. So without further ado, we'll just go to Earth and we'll start from there. And if you're wondering, all those dots are stars and galaxies that you can visit. Amazing software, again an amazing program to do simulation. Let's wait for the program to load because my computer is not that strong. And so here we are, still loading. So here we are. This is planet Earth, our planet. We'll actually accelerate the time a bit more so that we can notice the movement of the planet. Yep, here we are. So this is planet Earth, and if we stand right here and click and search for moon and we target it, we will see the moon. Hopefully, yep, no, that's the sun. Yeah, we basically need to zoom out. Okay, so that's the moon. We see it shining up there. Here it is. And that's the Earth. So of course we will go to Earth, and so we'll try to understand the scene that Ibrahim himself saw. So okay, so let's try to land on the planet. We're not going to see much, just to try to understand what Ibrahim understood. Okay. It's a bit hard to understand where the moon is. That's serious. Oh, right, there it is, finally. So as you can see right now, it's really dark. The program doesn't have too much of light. Man, we can see the northern lights here. Okay. So, where was it? Yeah, there is the moon. So now we'll turn back time so that we can actually see what Ibrahim also saw. Yeah, yeah, invert time. Okay. Okay, let's just start from when it started. Okay, here it's good. Wait. Okay, so the first thing Ibrahim saw were stars. We know that one of the first stars that come up is Venus, which is a planet, and this is why the Quran uses the word Kawkab, which means planet. It's different from Najm. And as you can see, just saw the stars. And you know, the particular thing about Ibrahim from archaeological studies and also biblical narration, as far as I remember, is that the place he was living, Ur and Uruk, they worship mainly these three gods. There were many gods, but they worship the sun god, the moon god, and the planet god. It was either Venus or Jupiter. You know, they had, and they discovered actually in Ur or Uruk this a lot of statues, and among these statues we have the big statues, and the big statues have the head of a sun, the head of the moon, and the head of this planet with a ring around it. So basically, it could be Jupiter, it could be Saturn, just a planet, big ball like a planet. So Ibrahim wanted to understand. It is true, of course, that some Mufassirun, some commentators of the Quran say that it was just a thing that he wanted to understand. He already knew this argument, but he acted, in a sense, in front of his people so that the people may get his line of reasoning. Or other opinions may state that he actually wanted to reflect. He had some doubts, you know, like everyone, but he never fell into shirk. It was just his way of reflecting. You know, this is my master, and then he understood it wasn't. or otherwise he already knew, he already got that type of understanding, and then he explained to the people. Either case. So he saw this planet and he said, okay, this is my master. It is all shining. It is the celestial body that they worship, all these amazing stars, you know. It was typical of some cultures of the past to worship the stars like gods in the sky, looking up at human beings. And even today, we see the people have this, you know, they try to guess the future from the stars, which is haram, of course. It is a shame that we find this also in Arab countries, which should be more Muslim uh, on the paper, of course. May Allah guide all our ummah. But anyway, so he saw this planet, and then he said, "This is my master. Okay, let's take this. Let's consider this as a god." And then just look at what happens. Let's say that we take this star over here. Just follow one of these stars of our planet, right? And you see the sky moving, and Ibrahim is watching and watching and watching. You know, see so many stars, and then it sets. You know, the star went away. Where is it? No, there are so many stars around the sky. And he understood it. I don't love. Now, it doesn't mean he doesn't like a god and he's choosing a god that he likes. It means that he cannot attach his heart and worship. You know, worship is a form of manifestation of love toward something. Uh, there is a verse of the Quran says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ. From people, from humans, there are those who take, instead of God, partners and associates, and they love them like the love of God. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. But those who believe are more severe, more complex, more strong in the love of Allah. So finally, Ibrahim sees the moon, and we can see it coming up from the left side. It's more shining, and that's what the verse says. He saws it bazighan, shining just like we see. You know, it's more bazigh, it's more shining compared to the stars around. And he says, "Oh, this is greater. That's it. That's my God. That's my master." But then, as we can see, it also sets and goes away. It is part of a cycle, and it just goes away. And the next thing that we see rising is, let's see if we can get it, the sun. Okay, guys. Technical problems. Let's wait for the other day. And here we are. Let's try to get a better perspective. Okay, the sun is rising, and it's Fajr time here. Okay, here it is, finally. So there's the sun, shining, bigger than the moon, and he said, "This is my master. This is greater." And again, he says that he saw it bazigha. But then again, we all know what happens to the sun, right? It sets, that's right. And it goes down. Okay. And it sets. And then he got it. You see? Now we got back to step one. Again, the Kawkab, the planets, the planet rising. So what is it that Ibrahim understood? Of course we say Allahu A'lam, but the interesting thing is that we find this line of argumentations in other places of the Quran. And what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, for example, is that first of all, these celestial bodies, right, they have ikhtilaf. You know, when we see the alternation of the night and the day, we see patterns, irregularities in the cosmos. And we see the celestial bodies orbiting, right? But they have some characteristics that make us understand that they cannot have been there forever. Well, first of all, people in the past believed that something could be eternal, infinite in the past. But then philosophers and scientists said, look, how can we say that the orbits of the sun are infinite and then measure them? Because in this case, even measuring them doesn't mean anything. You see? And then, I mean, people in the past considered, for example, the solar system, or even more simply, the sun to be eternal. But then, is it really the case? No. But do we need to see the sun to understand that it is caused? Because this is what Ibrahim understood. Ibrahim understood that there is something that originated all of the events and all of the universe, all of the physical existence. Now there is a verse in Surah Al-Waqiyah, a series of verses where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains us this argument, and the argument ends with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swearing by the very positioning of the stars, and he says that this is an amazing swearing, an amazing oath, if you but knew. And what is the oath all about? Well, basically Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you see, this is important because Ibrahim observed the positioning of the stars. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Surah Al-Waqiyah swears by the positioning of the stars. And we know that the sun is a star, the stars are stars, and planets are celestial bodies. So what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in Surah Al-Waqiyah? Basically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts by saying that, we have created you, so why don't you believe? And then he starts giving out the argument with examples. He said, look, uh, I've created you and you die, and I decreed that you die, and we know that this is in a way imprinted in our DNA. But Allah says that that was not a necessary thing. You could have been living forever, and we know that in Jannah we will live forever. And there are actually animals that are immortal virtually. They die because they are killed by other creatures, but they don't age. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, we have decreed that you age and you die. And then he continues with this line of arguments, and he says, look at the vegetation. You see it green, there is some yellow vegetation going bad, uh, becoming all dry, and there is other vegetation which is green and beautiful, healthy. And Allah says, look at the green ones. Are you the ones that cause it to sprout, or are we the ones who cultivate it and make it sprout? Well, one would answer and say, look, I know that I'm not the one making it sprout and coming out of the earth, but how can I know that it is God? Well, Allah says that He is the one who decreed it as an existence, as a creation, and if He had wanted, He could have made it differently. He could have made it gone bad and yellow. And this type of reasoning already tickles our minds. And then he continues and he says the same thing about water. He says, look at the uh, water that you drink. Did you make it come down from the clouds, or are we the ones who send it down? And of course, you can say an answer to these verses directly and says, look, I know I'm not the one who makes the water come down from the sky, but how do I know it is Allah who does it? And Allah says, look, it is sweet to drink. We know that rainwater is potable. We can drink it, right? It could be a bit dirty, but people in the past and still today in some areas of the world mainly drink rainwater. But also, muzn could also mean from the mountains. So in general, the water that we drink from this, deriving from, for example, mountains or from the clouds themselves, And Allah says, if we had wanted, we could have made it ujaja, so non-drinkable. Not just salty, not just milh, but ujaja, non-potable. You cannot drink it. And we know, for example, that in Venus there are acidic rains, and in other planets there is rain, but it is just not good for us. Now, it's not a purpose-driven argument here. It is more like contingency. That's the key word. You know, the water is drinkable, but we know that it could not be drinkable. It could be salty, it could be non-potable, it could be acidic rain, always, all the time. Ourselves and our DNA, we have some sort of it is in a sense decreed and determined that we age and die. But we could have had a DNA code that actually, according to it, actually we are immortal and we don't age and we don't die from aging. the DNA doesn't make mistakes, you know. And then finally, in the last part of the argument, it says the same thing, similar thing about fire. But this time, it presupposes that you understood the argument, so it says, look at the fire. Um, did you create it, or are we the creators? And then it says, we have made it a means of remembrance, so remembering hellfire and so on and so forth, and a useful thing. We know fire is really useful for us, and it could have not could not have been useful even an, from the creation point of view, because the verse talks about the tree from which the fire comes. So we build carbon, you know, we have coal, and even scientists know that uh, the trees are really useful for us in building fire. You know, we do fire with wood, basically. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I could have made it such that it did not produce fire so easily. And then finally he says that this is haqqul yaqeen, this is the truth of certainty, yaqeen, the same word used for Ibrahim, uh, and then he makes the oath on the positioning of the stars. And what is this argument? In other parts of the Quran, Allah also says that, look at the creation. If we wanted, we could come with a whole different creation. You, yourselves, and all of the existence, we could come with a completely different existence. Now, isn't this an incredibly powerful instrument to understand whether something is caused or not? Now let's test it. Now, you see, people in the past only saw the solar system basically as the universe. But there are so many contingent and specific. Contingent means non-necessary, which basically means that it is X and it could have been Y, and also it means that it could depend on something else. In Arabic, they say that it is mumkin al-wujud. It's being what it is, it's possible, but not necessary. It is contingent. And then wajib al-wujud, necessary existence, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they will understand. Now let's as you can see here, the planet again, you see the Earth so far away, you see the moon, you even see the sun. Let's just see the solar system in its entirety, right? With the orbits, let's just use this powerful instrument, and here we are. So you find all these planets going around, and let's say that people from Earth actually observed these this system. They knew about it, but it was all for them. This was the universe, basically. Now the question is, can we use this instrument to determine that? No, I believe that this was actually caused by something else. Of course we can. Why? Well, because if we see the sun, we know that it has a certain dimension, it has a certain mass, we know. People in the past knew that it emits a certain quantity of light, could be more, could be less, and the sun occupies a certain amount of space in the sky. You see, even without having all the theory or the heliocentric understanding, we could still say that the whole of the system, the solar system, is caused by something else. And so we know that, you see, the sun occupies a certain positioning compared to the other bodies, and the bodies rotate in a certain way, and they are in a certain position in their orbit and another. You see, for example, let's accelerate these rotation bodies. You see, we see that we find these bodies rotating. The whole system is actually moving right now because we have the Earth as a centered planet. But you see, the planets are rotating. Let's just go near this planet. We see that it is actually moving. See, this is a satellite of Uranus moving. The whole system is moving. But isn't why aren't these orbits bigger or smaller or slower or faster? You see, these are all contingent facts which are dependent upon the mawaqi' of the nujum, the mawaqi' in this case of the kawakib and the najm. Now, so in the positioning and the characteristics, specific physical characteristics of the system, of the planets, of the star. And we know now with understanding this is even more the case. This means that even if someone claimed in the past that it was eternal, we would have had a powerful instrument to say no, because of this logical fact. We cannot accept it, just like we cannot accept the fact that something is not and is at the same time, or that something that doesn't exist something, this axiomatic absurdities. Well, this is the same thing, because here we are operating with categories of being. We know that these entities are, and they could be different. So we know for a fact that there must be something that determines that these things are the way they are and not in another way. Now let's just zoom out, and we know that historically people discovered that we are not just living in a system, we are actually living with many other systems, you see, and this system is actually part of a mega system which we call galaxy. And subhanallah, here it is. Let's just hide that galaxy over there for now, and we see this beautiful galaxy. Amazing. Well, yeah, let's also not consider the millions of points in the background, which are other galaxies, and let's just say that we can only observe this galaxy. Now, can we not use the same instrument to infer that the galaxy was closed? You know, in the last century, just in the last century, people believed that the galaxy were all there was. And then people discover another galaxy, and for them was just like discovering another universe. Can you imagine the reaction people had? Imagine if today we were to discover and visibly see another universe. For now, that is impossible in principle. We will not go in the theory right now. But look at this. I mean, if we can just see this, how many contingent fact, mumkin fact, can we bring up? You see, even if I were to click on just one of these points, which belongs to the system, why is this point, or if someone may argue that, why is not an answer that science answer, how come that this point right here is occupying this space, this position in the system, and not, for example, another? For example, here. Why is this the case? Or how come that is the case? How come we know that the galaxy rotates, right? How come the galaxy is rotating with this speed, not faster, not slower? How come the galaxy has this dimension, not bigger, not smaller? It has a certain amount of stars. When we look at the star, the mawaqi of the nujum, we see that the sky, which for now is just the sky of the galaxy, is occupied by a certain number of stars. They are not more, they are not less. They have certain luminosity. They have certain luminosity. It's not more, it's not less. It could be different. The very stars, they could be slightly to the right, slightly to the left. They could all be lined up. There is nothing necessary about the way they are. Why? Because this is the sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to understand. This is one of the strongest arguments that Allah puts forward. Everything in the physical existence is contingent no matter how you look at it. This means that there must be something non-physical, non-contingent, and necessary which caused it. And in fact, we know that the solar system was caused by something else. And the stars which are around, it's nebula, right? And the nebula, whatever, was caused by something else. Why? Because it is contingent. The nebula from which the sun came from had a certain number of particles. It could be more, could have been less. The nebula occupied a certain space. It could have been more, could have been less. And the same thing for the galaxy, which is a big, big nebula of stars. It has a certain mass. It could be bigger, it could be smaller, could have a different shape. So we can say for certainly, look, Mr. 20th century scientist who believes that the universe is composed by the galaxy and that's it, and that it's eternal. You're making such a fundamental mistake. Why is it? Well, because as an atheist scholar said, they cannot even allow the thought of the divine. The statement of the book was, we cannot allow a divine foot into the door. They cannot even allow the possibility, some of them, for something non-physical to exist, because then science would just collapse and stop. Now, as Muslims, we say that we can accept the preference always of physical causes, but we know that yes, we always can presuppose physical causes, but at the end of it, an end that we can argue we will never reach, because maybe we will reach it in the akhirah, in the afterlife, when we will ask the creator of this everything. Uh, that end is necessary, and the whole of the physical existence is not necessary, it is contingent, and we will get to it. So we find that, yeah, actually the guy was right. We were right. There is not one galaxy. Look how many galaxies we have in nebulas here. There are a lot of galaxies, and as you can see, again, these are all contingent. These are all contingent. We have this galaxy over here up in the right, this yellow one, which is occupying that position. It's not to the left, it's not to the right. It has a certain luminosity, no more, no less, certain mass, occupying a certain amount of space-time. And the same thing is valid for all of these. Not only this, but the whole of the visible galaxies and visible universe for now, is can be taken just as a single unit, composed of little smaller parts, just like the solar system is made up of smaller particles, and just like the galaxy is made up of smaller parts, the solar systems and this big universe system is made up of smaller parts, which are galaxy systems. And again, when we reach the end of this discussion, the question is, how can we know the universe is closed? Even without knowing about the Big Bang, we use the reasoning of contingency and mawaqi' nujum. Perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the physical universe in such a way that for our understanding, it is eternal. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it made it begin in a way that we cannot comprehend. Because, Allah calls space-time. And we will now prove also that point in a minute using this reasoning. But the thing is, if Allah, you know, if Allah calls space-time, how can we understand something which is beyond space-time? It's not just eternal, because eternity is in time, but something that causes space and time, that's beyond our understanding. That's beyond our understanding. And that's, at this point, we only can say subhanallah, you know, glorified and above everything is Allah, the God. So we can say that. Now, let's suppose for a minute, the latest theory the scientists are using to, some scientists, not all of them, uh, many scientists just abhor this theory, which is the theory of the multiverse, for many reasons. First of all, even the most elaborated multiverse theory does not prove, in a sense, that there are infinite multiverses, infinite universes in this theorized multiverse space, and they do not prove at all that all possibilities are realized. They assume it. Why? Because they need to explain the fine-tuning of our universe. They need to explain the crazy, amazing fact that the regularities of the universe, if they were different, we wouldn't be here. And I would add that an even more amazing argument is that the physical regularities create purpose, function, and us. But that's for another video and another reasoning. But the thing is this, you know, space-time and matter is just matter. Whether we stop at the universe or we stop with the multiverse, it's still just matter, according to materialist theories. So here is the question. If it is just matter, and in a sense we could also agree with that, let's just think about this. Let's say that right now we are looking at this infinitesimally little small part of the multiverse, and each of these dots is a universe. Can't we use the same instrument to prove that the guy who proposed this thing are wrong? Can we just say that this universe, which are not freaking, let's just approach one of these bodies and let's assume that it is our universe, right? Well, how come, even if we say that this multiverse produces all sorts of this multiverse produces all sorts of universes, well, you see, the mechanism is not random. The mechanism that leads to the production of these things is not random. It's just like saying that we are in a universe, and the universe has constants and mechanisms, and this mechanism brings about many galaxies, many stars, many planets, and one of them is us. The same thing we can say for the multiverse. There is a mechanism, you see, a very specific, contingent, universe-producing mechanism, or matter-producing mechanism, and it happened to produce this universe that we are seeing right now, that we see right now. But again, you see, it's contingent. Why or how come the mechanism produces different universes and not, for example, the same universe? And if you argue that the universe is the same, how come this multiverse produces the same universe and not different? Or perhaps, why or how come this multiverse produces universes with X specific mechanism and not another? You see, physics is always bound by laws, unless you want to claim that everything is just chaos, and even studying the cosmos and existence doesn't make any sense, and you have to prove that, and that would be logically untenable for many reasons. Then if you say that there is a mechanism, that there is a multiverse per se as an entity, then that multiverse works with the mechanism. Now they say the mechanism is quantum mechanics. Okay, there are really specific mechanisms which work in a certain way, which produce certain effects in a certain with certain qualities, and these qualities could be different. So for example, the mechanism is such that it produced this universe that we are seeing right now, but the universe that it produced could have been smaller, could have been bigger, could have been more massive, you see? And the mechanism itself, the universe producing mechanism, which produces all the universe, either all possibilities, I'm taking these two extremes as an example. Either it produces all possibilities, or it produces just one possibility, like the same universe, infinitely repeated, uh, even though, an interpretation of the multiverse theory, just crazy thing. It says that there are infinite amount of universes. What do I mean? That there is infinite amount of the same universe, but at the same time there is infinite amount of another universe. And in some way that they don't clearly explain, these two infinities coexist. First of all, if you really do believe that, that's such an amazing leap of faith that you have no right to come and argue with those who believe that there is an intelligent creator behind the universe with really. And I'm not saying this because I'm an expert, I'm saying it because I'm quoting scholars and experts who say this. Most of the time, these scientists and the scientists and physics, the scientists don't have any philosophical training. Now, what do I mean with the philosophical training? Do I mean mumbo jumbo coming around and reflecting on um, mental uh, elucubrations? No. What I'm saying is that you need to know how logic works. You need to know how thought processing works. You need to know how philosophers study really the essence of things. What does it mean to have a being? What does it mean to have? I mean, the fact that nothing cannot exist, and then from nothing can come, unless of course you're talking about Krauss's nothing. But anyway, you see, you need to have some sort of philosophical foundation. And with philosophical foundation, I don't mean mumbo jumbo mental lucubrations again, but I mean some logical framework. And science knows it in a sense, and I'm personalizing science here because science is based on the philosophy of science, which presupposes a lot of philosophical things. For example, that the external world is real and it exists, and it presupposes things that you cannot prove for a fact and axiomatically. For example, that we have other consciousness. How do we know that? For example, how do you know, viewer, that you are not the only consciousness? Solipsism. Science can't prove it, but they assume it. And of course, in the philosophy of science, we have some axiomatic facts and we have some non-axiomatic facts. But basing ourselves on axiomatic facts, we see that we have an amazingly powerful tool. Every time we are speaking about physical things, we are speaking about things that have certain qualities, and these qualities are not necessary, are contingent because the thing we're speaking about is physical. Now, if we take the whole of the physical ensemble as contingent, because in the end of the day, our system, our solar system, our galaxy, our universe in the multiverse perhaps, or even the multiverse in a possible megaverse, is just a part of the whole. It's just like the computer that I'm using, or this cell phone. This cell phone, if I take a part of it and just study a part of it, I'm studying a part of a whole. You see? Now, how can the part be contingent and the whole be necessary? Of course, it's not. And this powerful instrument, which we as Muslims believe was taught to us by the very creator of the existence, the physical existence itself, is a powerful instrument. Because at the end, we get to a being which must be necessary, non-physical, and which caused everything. But from what? And I'm not mean physicality or energy or something like that. No, 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 no. I'm speaking about foundational things here. I'm speaking about if there is no physical thing, and then the only thing that exists is this necessary being, right? We don't know if he's intelligent or not yet. But look at this. This thing, in a sense, and it may seem a contradiction, created everything from zero possibilities and at the same time infinite possibilities. Why? Well, because there was nothing there, not even space-time, and at the same time, this being had the possibility to create the space-time in an infinite, different array of ways. SubhanAllah. Now, what does it mean? Well, imagine we have a point, which in this case is not really accurate, it's not the best example, but just to understand. Suppose we have a point, and the point represents, logically speaking, just as an abstraction, the necessary being, and you have, some arrows coming out of the necessary being, and these arrows are infinite, and these are potential things that can happen. Now, try to think this example in this way. These boxes, these arrows, exist and don't exist at the same time. They are there, but at the same time, it's as if they are not there. This is something, you know, it seems illogical, but quantum mechanics deal with this weird stuff all the time, and we expect this weird stuff happening all the time, also in, you know, when we speak about a being that is beyond space-time. But this is the thing. From this infinite array of possibility and at the same time zero possibility because there's nothing, this being literally created this physical existence, this space-time, or whatever other thing we have in existence. Why is this more relevant than it already appears to be? Because um, this, you see, just to make you understand how mind-blowingly high is the number of possibility, which is infinite. Let's suppose I'm here right now, and I am here right now, and I'm wearing these glasses. Now, these glasses could be different in many ways, and this space-time could have been built in such a way that these glasses that we are looking at, in such a way that the whole of existence is the same, except for these glasses. And now imagine how many variations I could do to these glasses. And imagine that because these glasses are part of the whole, if I change the part, in a sense, I change the whole. Because I have the whole where I have glasses A, the whole where I have glasses B. And now this necessary being is necessary, so there is nothing else that could have determined the fact that this being would be obliged, forced by physical necessity, which is a contradiction already, to select one possibility over the other. So if you have this being, which is literally two main characteristics we can have, pure being, pure necessary being, and on the other hand, pure selection. From infinite array of possibility, we have pure selection. Pure selection of what? Of this reality. Now, I don't know how you call that, but I call that choice, especially looking at how and what is being caused and the effect that it brought about. It brought about everything that we would expect from a God to create. It brought about intelligence, it brought about minds, consciousness, life, codes, language, symbols, purpose, machines. You say, what you're talking about? Of course, because the necessary being could have selected another type of creation where there was no machine, where a computer like this could not even have any, talking about a computer would not have had any sense and any meaning. Just like, the same thing, scientists say that if there is no consciousness, in the existence. What does it even mean to speak about meaning, purpose, color, sound? Because there's no one there to perceive it. Now this is not the exact same thing that I'm talking about, but it gives you an idea. So I think this is an amazingly mind-blowing argument and logical discussion, and I argue that it is impossible to debunk, simply because the only way you have, and I saw a debate, I don't remember the two interlocutors who they were, but big guys, and at the end of it all, the atheist interlocutor a philosopher had to just stopped the discussion because he said, look, for me, the universe is just a brute fact. Yes, it's contingent. Yes, it could be different, but it's just a brute fact. It just is. Now, suppose people said that about the solar system. You said you're crazy. Could you see that it could have been different? Now, because the repercussions are enormous when we speak about the whole of the universe or the multiverse or all the physical existence, people do not have the strength to do that step. Why? Because you get to God, of course. Mind you, this argument does not lead you directly to the God of Abraham, but nonetheless God. And I will argue a personal one because it caused persons. Now this could be a fallacy, to say, okay, it's personal, so it caused person. But at least we can say that this God, this being, had the capacity to produce persons. So I want to leave you in this ending part of the video with these reflections. First of all, just to make you understand how atheists today, scientists at the top level of study who are atheists and accept the multiverse theory as some of, the infinite thing, the infinite version of the multiverse theory. They tell believers, how can you believe in angels? How can you believe in a paradise? But they actually believe in it. Because all the possibilities are manifest, or as Andrea Linde says, a big physicist and proponent of multiverse theory, he says everything that can happen will happen. And the question arises, why things that can happen are these and not more or less? Contingency is the short answer. But just to think about it, if matter can be arranged in infinite ways, they actually believe that there is a multiverse right now where there are angels worshipping God without God there existing, and this being, this exotic life, which we will call angel for the purpose of the discussion, actually have in themselves, purely randomly, the memories and information about each and every human being living in this universe. Randomly, mind you, because of the arrangement of the particles in their whatever thing they're made of, and so they actually, for them, they believe in Angel Gabriel. They believe in the whole package, and actually more than that. They believe that there's a version of themselves going to hell right now for no reason, without God being there. Now, how rational can it be? They believe actually this universe might very well collapse in the next 5 minutes and become a crazy universe where everyone becomes spaghetti. I know, it sounds crazy. That's because what they propose is crazy. It's not just not being able to accept it. That could even be the case. But even in that case, you see, even if I were to grant you the possibility of there having you a whole universe filled with flying horses, something which Dawkins mocked and he himself actually believes in, well, you see, it's just crazy, and then I just need to, I even lost the train thought. It's just absurd. And so importantly, this is really something that we as Muslims, and then Muslims and also Christians, brothers, and even if there are videos that I did uh, to propose why, as a Muslim, I think the Christianity or the Trinitarian version of Christianity is wrong. Still, we can still come together as people who believe in this Creator, and we can stop, or in a sense interact with atheists to make them understand the absurdity of their belief. A belief that leaves us with no moral grounding, with no one to say what's good and what's right. You see, it becomes dangerous. it has been dangerous in the last century with what we've seen with world wars, racism, people burning and killing children, and still today. You see, it's dangerous. So, this is the first thing, right? The end of the video, the crazy thing about the multiverse. And the other thing is that, I mean, what's more rational? You see? As I was saying, even if we were to give you the possibility, to give the atheist or those who propose this theory the possibility this existence, crazy multiverse existence, may actually be there, still, for it to be there consistently, it means that there is a mechanism that holds it into reality, and that mechanism is contingent. Another thing which I want to talk about to prove, in a sense, that also space-time can be considered as is, in fact, caused and created, not fundamental. And many scientists are talking about this today by talking about how actually space-time is emergent from quantum mechanics. Well, let's just suppose, whatever it is, this space-time, you see, Einstein proposed it as a fabric. Well, if you put a planet in it, the fabric bends. Now, if it indeed acts that way, why is this space-time fabric not bending more or less with more or less matter? What I mean is, why does, in a sense, it's just like saying, because I'm speaking about it from the relativity point of view. If we were to say it from a Newtonian classical physics point of view, we would say, why do bodies exert X amount of gravity pull, not more and not less, with their mass? Which makes more sense in relativity terms by saying, why does space-time bend? You see how crazy it is? Why does it bend in a certain way, therefore causing gravitational pull, gravitational waves, with X amount of weight, let's say the weight of the sun, and not already with the weight of the Earth? Why doesn't space-time bend just like it does with the mass of the sun, but with the mass of the Earth? Guess what? Contingency. That's because it's a contingent fact, because there is something more fundamental, the space-time itself. So we are left with a being which is necessary, which caused our brain, life, consciousness, information, purpose, and that chose literally to create this specific creation. And that's it. It's a bit abrupt, perhaps, an abrupt way to end this video, but that's just how it is. I hope really you enjoyed this episode. It is significantly longer than the others, but also I hope and think significantly interesting. And please do subscribe to the channel. As you can see, our means are modest, but alhamdulillah, this is the first time I'm using this face cam feature. The software is called OBS. It's really good if you want to share also your thoughts. Do your videos, please. Use this powerful instrument, Dawa instrument, of course, called YouTube. I'm referring to the Muslims. And also, uh, that's it. If you like more of this type of videos, longer videos, more using also this software, just let me know. And the last video we talked about how Jesus became God. I think that perhaps in the next video we can tackle more how to understand more the qualities of this God, how to understand that we are talking about an intelligent mind and cosmos. But again, this is what Ibrahim, Allahu Alam, but perhaps this is what Ibrahim understood. We have certainty. Every time we will have to deal with contingent facts, we will know that something is caused. And because the physical things are contingent, we know that we will have to stop a necessary thing. And this is a point I forgot to mention also. You know, atheists and those who are materialists and physicalists actually believe in the same manner that we do. Why? Because they believe that the physical is fundamental. At least we believe, and I'm using the word believe not just as a blind belief, just like you believe that the external world is real, because you're looking at it, you have experience, you make inference, and then you understand that it is real. Well, they believe something more crazy. They believe that the physical existence is all there is. despite it being contingent, they believe that that's the end of it all. Now, as Hamza Tzortzi said in one of his debates, pick. Either you have a necessary being, which is the mind, as something unfathomably powerful and amazing that we can't even imagine, but we can slightly perceive, or you have just some junk, pieces of matter, some matter just recombining itself for no reason, being contingent crazily for no reason, and that's it. We have many things to talk about. We have many things. I want to share many things about evolution, a Muslim perspective on evolution, Muslim perspective on many things. And, we're doing what we can. And I end with this video with the salutation of peace uh, of Islam and Judaism and also Christians, which is Assalamu alaikum, Shalom. In Latin, they used to say Pax TB or Vobis, which basically means Assalamu alaikum. And I want this video really to be something of us coming together. All of us, people who believe in a God, coming together to really bring the discussion back to a spiritualism which is based on reason and on intellect, and which is something that we lost because we are addicted to the dunya, as we say in Arabic. So with this beautiful view of this galaxy RG08255273729, I end this video. I hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe to subscribe to not only to support but also to get notified when other videos are up. And with this I end the video. Assalamu alaikum.